Hey, my name is Josh Adkins, and this is episode 2 of The Roasters. I will be discussing the ways in which fair trade uses virtue signaling to better their brand reputation and sales. I would like to begin by defining what virtue signaling is. I am defining it as the act of displaying progressive viewpoints solely to benefit reputation and public standing without supporting any real causes. In this podcast, I will be detailing the methods fair trade uses to mask unethicality with virtue signaling. First, I will show ways that fair trade virtue signals in their commercials. Then, I will show the irony in their statements, as the reality of the company's practices does not illustrate the same message they put out. In a YouTube video titled "The Difference That Fair Trade Makes," put out by Fair Trade, it shows a farming family talking about the ways fair trade improved their lives. Specifically, they talk about the way they have improved their farming methods. Why I bring up this commercial specifically is that it details the environment. The farmer talked about how fair trade showed them new farming practices. The direction of the advertisement then goes into how these ways are good for the environment rather than his family and personal success. The environment is a hot global and political issue. Fair trade found a way to make it about environmentalism, even though the commercial was more about what fair trade had done for them. Fair trade also released an advertisement concerning the ethicality of their coffee more directly. The advertisement is designed in such a way that it would lead the viewer to believe they are being immoral if they don't support fair trade, which is a major reason virtue signaling is often employed. The advertisement, which I accessed from the Advertisements of the World website, reads, "Introducing the first coffee that helps you sleep better." The wording of the advertisement heavily implies that fair trade coffee is the first and only ethical coffee. The bottom of the advertisement reads, "Buying fair trade coffee helps thousands of families in Africa and Latin America to live with dignity out of their work. This way, they can improve the lives of their families and their community." The reasonable assumption would then be you are acting unethically if you do not support fair trade. They want you to believe you shouldn't be sleeping well if you drink other coffee. Virtue signaling as a marketing scheme is sadly very viable. By preying upon the feelings of the consumer, companies like Fair Trade are able to manipulate people into buying their product. According to Fair Trade, you don't care about ethical working conditions unless you drink their coffee. You don't care about the environment either if you don't drink their coffee, because they teach better environmental practices. Fair Trade says that fair trade is saving the environment and workers. But are either of these things true? First off, you are definitely not in the wrong if you don't support fair trade. Ironically, their claims are not exactly true. At the end of the day, fair trade is a company. And what's a company's largest motive? To generate as much revenue as possible. Fair trade needs to come across as extremely progressive in order to generate revenue for itself as a nonprofit. Their virtue signaling is how they are able to get away with it. But that leaves us with one major question. How does fair trade make all of its money? At a glance, the answer should be seemingly obvious. The coffee they sell and donations should be the way they generate revenue. However, the real answer is a lot more underhanded. The real answer is why they have to generate so much positive media attention with frequent commercials of workers bragging about how fair trade helped them with their labor practices, or how fair trade showed them how to protect the environment. The real answer is explained in a source from the Stanford Social Innovation Review. An article titled "The Problem with Fair Trade Coffee" by Colleen Haight details the dirty secret about fair trade's income. The company amasses a large budget every year to fund their various activities. But where does this budget come from? Haight stated that in 2009, the nonprofit had a budget of $10 million, 70% of which was funded by fees. She then goes on to talk about how the rest of it is funded by donations from other philanthropic organizations, foundation grants, and private donations. This is an extremely disproportionate percentage of wealth and budget accumulation. This is more of the money that doesn't go to the farmers themselves. Quote, "Premiums are retained by the cooperative, and they do not pass directly to farmers. Instead, the farmers vote on how the premium is to be spent for their collective use. The money is deliberately kept from the farmers themselves. The fair trade company simply uses the money to fund its own operations, despite all their commercials stating otherwise. However, the vast majority of consumers are not aware of these facts. They simply go on thinking that fair trade is a fantastic corporation. Who's to blame them? The media tells them that they should think that. Fair trade manipulates their image so that they come off as a worker and environmentally friendly company. By doing this, they can make the consumer fall for paying unnecessary fees and get away with cheating farmers out of money that could go their way. So, in conclusion, virtue signaling can be a complicated but very effective marketing strategy. There can be many layers to a brand's public reputation, as proved by Fairtrade International. By designing their advertisements and public views into being something meaningful and publicly popular, they are able to manipulate the consumer into buying their product. However, as I have shown, this is not always truly reflective of the company's actual practices. Virtue signaling can be used to gather positive attention, but it's hard to differentiate between companies doing that and companies actually looking out for well-meaning causes. That's why further research like this is often necessary. This has been my section of the Roasters, and thanks for listening.